Hello again. Today what I thought I'd like to do is to expand upon the tarot cards, and we're going to look at each of the major arcanas, and I'm just going to tell you what I feel about them, give you a bit of the background about what they are about, what their meanings are, what their symbology is, and then we'll take it from there. So, have you ever stood at the edge of a brand new chapter? A move or a calling with your stomach full of butterflies? That's the Fool card. Number 0, which is the very first card in the Major Arcana. So the Fool is a part of you that says to trust it, to take a leap of faith, and the universe will catch you. It's about new beginnings, it's about innocence, and it's about a leap of faith. I've seen the Fool appear for people at moments when their whole life is about to change. It tells us we don't need every answer. The leap itself is going to be the lesson, how you deal with that. If you close your eyes, where in your life are you? Are you at the edge of something new? If you are, just breathe in that moment. And can you allow trust to rise where fear usually sits? The Fool reminds us that every journey begins with one step at a time. And the Fool is that new beginning, the innocence, and that leap of faith, as I said before. He actually carries no baggage, only a small pack that's on his shoulder on a stick, and his eyes are gazing up into the sky, not on the ground. And this is the energy really of stepping forward without guarantees. Maybe you've taken on a new job, or you weren't sure about that, but you had to change your job. Maybe you've started a relationship that felt risky, or walked into a room not knowing what awaited. That moment of courage is the Fool in your life. So, if you just close your eyes and imagine yourself at the edge of a cliff, instead of fear, feel trust. Step forward in your mind's eye and notice how you're held, by light, by love, or by something else, could be someone else. And then if you write it down in a journal and ask, where am I being asked to leap in my life right now? And think about that. And if you write it down, the amazing thing about journals, I believe, is that when you start writing one, when you've done it for a few months or whatever, and you turn back the pages to the very first page and read through again, you just notice how far you've come. So journaling is a really interesting thing to do, especially if you're wanting to get to know the tarot cards. So the Fool reminds us that beginnings are sacred, that every step is supported by the one, the source, or whomever you believe is the reason behind us being here, let's put it that way. And you could call that source energy or universal energy. And you're never truly falling, you're only flying. Because it's us that actually puts on the feelings that we can't do things, or puts on things like, I'm not enough, or that's impossible, or I wouldn't be able to do that. So we create that, we cause all of those blocks. But really, we're truly never falling. We're actually only flying. So the Fool reminds us every journey begins with one step. We've then got the Magician card. And the Magician card, think of a time when you realized your thoughts, your focus, or your actions actually changed your reality. Maybe you prayed and something shifted, or maybe you set an intention and doors opened. That's the Magician. That's when you can begin to feel it and sense it, that something is happening, something has changed because of what you've done. So the Magician is all about manifestation. It's about willpower. And the truth of as above, so below. He stands with one hand pointing to the heavens and the other to the earth. And on his table are the four elements, the sword, the wand, the cup, and the coin. And he reminds you that you already have every tool that you need. And have you noticed, when you have made a clear decision, how that clear decision reshapes the world around you? The magician is that power within you to cause spirit into form. The table is laid out before you, and the figure raises one hand to the heavens, the other to the earth, which is, of course, what is above is below. So it's saying that you can have this intention, you can meditate, you can have thoughts, you can create things in your mental aspect, which is the heavens, or you can speak to your guides. And the other one, of course, is a foot on the earth, where you put that into manifestation, because the magician card is all about manifestation. So the magician is will, it's skill, and it's manifestation. And what you could do, you could light a candle and place 4 small objects around it, maybe a stone or a crystal, a cup of water, a feather, or incense, and something fiery like a match or a candle or a red cloth, and then speak one clear intention into the flame. Then release it, trusting it is now alive in the world. The magician will talk to you. It'll start allowing you to think about things, to allow yourself to create your reality going forward. You are not separate from the source. You are its channel. So manifest with clarity and with confidence and with love. So in my experience, he appears when we forget our own power. And remember, those tools are already within reach. The question is, will you use them? So, in other words, really, you are the spell. You are the magician and you are the spell. And funny enough, all your words, I always say that spelling, what we call spelling words out, each of those words are a spell. So the way that we create our intentions, being in the positive expression and also being in the present moment, feeling that you've already got whatever it is that you're wanting that spell to manifest. So really your words are your spell. So the next one we've got is the High Priestess. So have you ever had a dream that felt more real than waking life? Or maybe a gut feeling that later proved absolutely true? That's the High Priestess guiding you. The High Priestess is all about intuition, hidden wisdom, and mystery. So she sits between a black and white pillars, holding the book of knowledge, and she's a keeper of the secrets, and she's reminding you that not all truth is found in books. Some is revealed in silence when you go within, or in your dreams, or in your daydreams even. So think of the last time that you just knew something without evidence, because that's her voice. It's almost like she's sitting between these 2 stone pillars and she's silent between them. And there's a veil that's drawn behind her. She doesn't speak, yet you feel that she knows everything. She's quite an enigma, really, the High Priestess. What you could do with this one is maybe in your notebook, in your journaling, have that by your bed, and each morning just write down one image or word or feeling from your dreams. And by the end of the week, look to see if there are patterns there. And you could ask, What wisdom is my subconscious offering me? So I would say the High Priestess is mystery, it's intuition, it's hidden knowledge. And she comes when we're asked to listen inward, in silence, in meditation, in dreams. That's where she speaks. So the High Priestess invites you to trust the unseen, to go inside, to go inward, listen deeply. The mystery is already alive inside of you. Another thing you could do, perhaps, is just to take 3 slow breaths and ask what truth is waiting for me in the quiet. And maybe let the answer arrive. And when it does, just trust that voice within. The next card in the Major Arcana is the Empress. And the Empress card, I love this one. If you close your eyes for a moment and imagine just walking in a really lush garden and the sun's warm, you can feel the heat on the top of your head and the earth is rich beneath your feet. And when you look around you, there's lots of flowers, there's birds singing, and you feel totally safe and nourished, supported and held. Because she is the earth goddess. This is the energy of the Empress, the great mother of the tarot, overflowing with love, creativity and abundance. And when you look at the card, imagine this. Imagine that you step into that field of golden wheat, fruit-laden trees and a river winding through fertile land. And at the centre sits Empress, and she's radiant and she's crowned with stars because she represents fertility, creativity and abundance and almost the nurturing flow of life through you. She reminds us that creation isn't only about giving birth. It's about building a project, a dream, a new version of yourself. Have you ever had that idea that grew inside you until it came so huge that you just had to do something about it? Or felt such love for someone that you wanted to feed them? Often people say to me, or I say to them, I see a face and I feed it because that's just the way that I am. I love creating food and giving out, nurturing to others. So yeah, it could be that you felt that you wanted to, sort of comfort them in some way or see them thrive. That's the Empress. She's a mothering energy in us all, no matter our gender. But she also warns us, abundance flows when we're in harmony with nature. If we ignore our bodies and we're exhausted, or we live only in our heads and we lose the garden, we lose the peace, we lose the nurturing. The Empress calls us back to the rhythms of earth and our bodies and creativity. So what you can do with this card, you could create something, it could be anything. You could cook a nourishing meal with love or paint or write. Even if you just write a few words, a few lines, or you could plant a seed in the soil. And while you're doing that, just say to yourself, I create because I am part of the Creator. The Empress, you are fertile ground. You nurture yourself. You create joy, and life flows through you. She represents that wonderful message that we are the creators, not only of children, but of art, of ideas, of love, and life itself. So maybe you could think of one thing that you can nurture today. That idea, a relationship, a part of yourself. And maybe you could just place your hand on your heart and send it love. The Empress reminds us creation flows through you. The next card is the Emperor. And the Emperor, a very strong card here. And if you think about or think of a time when you felt safe because someone set clear boundaries, you knew exactly where you were, or a moment where structure, a plan or a routine had solid foundation that was put into place, and then all of a sudden that gave you freedom. That's the Emperor. If the Empress is the garden, the Emperor is a fence that protects it. So it's about structure, authority, and stability. It is card number 4. So with the 4 energy, I always think it's like a box. So it has everything inside of it. It's sealed inside this box. The Emperor is structure, authority, and stability. And he sits on a throne that's carved from rock. He's a figure in armor. He looks quite steady and stern. He looks as if he's really, sits with authority or comes from a sense of knowing. The Emperor represents order, lots of things like rules and systems and discipline, but it's not control for control's sake. It's a structure that allows us to grow, like the boundaries allow you to grow. Because if you don't have boundaries, then people have no expectations, that there aren't any sort of closure of expectations that they have about you. So they tend to step over into your space or doing something that you don't feel comfortable with because you haven't put out solid boundaries. And in these moments when life feels perhaps chaotic because of that, in these moments the Emperor shows up as a part of you that organizes, that sets boundaries, that builds something solid to stand on. Maybe it's starting a routine, getting your finances in order, for instance, or maybe simply saying no when you need to. But the Emperor also carries a shadow. Too much structure becomes rigidity. Too much authority becomes control. So the lesson here really is strong balance, an order as a foundation, not a prison. So creating a beautiful environment where you know where your boundaries stand and creating everything that you want to inside of your territory. And then that makes you strong. So maybe today you could choose an area of your life that feels messy, that feels as if you haven't got that structure, that stability, or those boundaries. And maybe it's time to claim your authority, to stand firm and set the rules of your own life. So write down a very simple structure to support it. Maybe a daily ritual, a budget, or a schedule. And you could say to yourself, because whatever you say to yourself, whatever you repeat to yourself, your subconscious mind listens to, and then it starts to, if it hears that the most, it starts to make those words, that saying, they put it into practice and it becomes your truth. So you could say, I create order so that freedom can flourish. The Emperor reminds us that there are boundaries. Yes, those boundaries are not walls, but foundations. So to stand tall and create structure, and from that strength and life will grow. You could also say to yourself, I have the right to decide. The Emperor tells us that your power begins with your choices. So then we go on to the Hierophant. And the Hierophant, just imagine this, think of the first time you sat in a classroom, or a temple, or a church, or a family gathering, and felt that something larger than you was being passed down, a knowledge, a tradition, a teaching, a way of seeing the world. That's the Hierophant. The Hierophant actually is a Greek word and it means a listening ear. So it's really that bridge between the human and the divine. And if you look at the Hierophant in the tarot, the Hierophant sits like a holy teacher, like a pope, with two students at his feet. And he represents the wisdom of traditions, a system of knowledge that guides us closer to the sacred. Something like this, like sometimes this is a religious figure. Sometimes it could be a mentor or a guide or even a book that transforms your life. But the Hierophant also challenges us. Do we follow blindly or do we choose consciously? The essence of this card is not obedience, but initiation. Receiving wisdom so that we can embody it and pass it forward and pass it down. And think of people, texts, or traditions that have shaped you. Perhaps yoga, perhaps a grandmother's wisdom, or maybe a book that cracked your world open. That was the Hierophant speaking. The meaning of this is it's tradition, it's teaching, it's spiritual authority. But he also asks you, whose truth are you living? The one given to you or the one you've uncovered yourself? Have you been discerning over choice making? What you could do is perhaps to revisit a source of wisdom that's meaningful to you. It could be teacher's words from when you were little, or listen to whatever has guided you. Maybe your dreams have. What belief did you inherit that no longer fits? Ask yourself, can you gently lay it down, let it go? So maybe you could say, how can I embody this wisdom in my life today? Because the Hierophant reminds us you are both student and teacher. The Hierophant invites you to find the door that leads to your truth, to receive wisdom with humility, embody it with integrity, and share that information, that truth, with love. Next one is the Lover's card. With this one, have you ever stood at a crossroads, torn between head and heart, between two paths, between safety and maybe just jumping into something that gives, that feels to you like a passion of yours? That's the Lover's card alive in you. It's not just about romance. It's about choice, alignment, and love as a spiritual teacher. The Lover's card is about love. It's about union, and it's the choices that define us. The card shows the lovers standing under an angel representing the sacred union. And they feel vulnerable underneath. Yes, it can mean relationships, falling in love, partnerships, soul connections, but deeper still, it's about choices. Have they made the right choices that align us with love, with truth, with what really matters in their life? Sometimes the Lover's card appears when we must choose between comfort and growth, and the path of the heart. This card asks, will you choose from fear or will you choose from love? It's about alignment and choice. So really, it's less about romance than truth. It asks you, do your choices align with your deepest values? Saying yes to a relationship or leaving a job, following your heart, that's the Lover's card. When you are being discerning with what your heart tells you. So what you could do, I like to do this one quite often actually, stand before a mirror today and just look into your own eyes and say, I choose love. I choose alignment with my higher self. And then just feel that choice ripple through your body. The Lover's card talks about every choice is an act of creation. Choose love and you align with everything that is meaningful to you, and you align with your deepest values. You could think of a decision that you may have to be making and place your hand on your heart and just ask, which option expands my heart the most? So the Lover's card really is your compass. If you start to connect with your heart and make decisions, authentic decisions that come from love, then that is your compass in life. So then we come to the Chariot card. And the Chariot is all about change. It's all about being pulled in two directions, really. Maybe one part of you wanting one thing and another part of you resisting. And yet when you finally gathered yourself and pushed forward, you triumphed because you actually made that decision. You made that decision, hopefully using the energy from the card beforehand from your heart, and you made that decision that was authentically yours. But then it allows you to push it forward. That's the Chariot. It's determination, focus, and victory through being discerning and through discipline, really. The Chariot is movement, it's mastery, and it's pulled by two sphinxes, one black and one white, and they symbolize opposing ideas, really, opposing forces of desire or duty. Do I want to do it or should I do it? Fear and courage, instinct and reason. And the secret is, he doesn't whip the horses. He's not holding on to any reins. He steers them with his mastery and in a very calm way. So the Chariot is drive, determination, and victory. The victory doesn't come from speed. It comes from aligning your will, that you can move forward while pulled in two directions. So it could be the completing of a course, running a race, or perhaps pushing through a challenge. The lesson is simple. Success comes when you bring your whole self into alignment and stay the course. So maybe today you could think of something that you've been hesitating on. Just write it down and list 3 small steps to move forward, just little steps. And when you've done that, just say to yourself, I move with focus and I'm carried by determination. Because the Chariot reminds us victory isn't about force. It's gathering your power, aligning your will, and then moving forward. Another thing you could think about with this one is, what's pulling me apart right now? So choose one direction. Think about, again, what your heart tells you, what you intuitively know that is the right direction to go. So the next one is the Strength card. And the Strength card is, if you picture the card, it's a woman in white and she's gently closing a lion's jaw. And the beast doesn't resist. She doesn't force anything. She just soothes this lion. The lion is fierce and powerful, is it not? But the picture is about taming it, not with chains or fear, but with a gentle hand, with a calmness in your heart, with a quiet presence. So she's soothing this. So the Strength card is about courage, perseverance, patience, and compassion. Strength is the inner power, the courage and gentle mastery over instinct. This card teaches us to meet things that we are afraid of, meet them with compassion. So think of a time when you were faced with fear and overcame it, not by fighting, but by breathing and softening and staying present. That's true strength. So maybe next time you feel stressed or afraid, pause. Place your hand on your heart again, this beautiful part of you that speaks the truth. Breathe deeply and whisper to yourself, I'm strong. I am gentle. I am whole. And then just notice how the energy shifts. Because strength reminds us, true courage is soft. Power is compassion. And to master the inner lion with love, and then nothing can shake you. I've seen it many times with people, with clients, again and again, when true strength isn't about control, and they've used control, it's about kindness. It's actually meeting your fear with gentleness. So the strength really teaches us the softest touch can tame the fiercest roar, the lion. The next card is the Hermit card. I love the Hermit card. I love them all, but the Hermit card I really love because it's almost like saying it's the end of one era and it's the beginning of another. If you think about the Hermit he's very wise. He's this old gentleman with a long grey beard, and he's holding a very tall staff in his hand, and in the other hand he's got a lantern that is shining a light onto a different pathway. So he's high on a mountain, solitary figure, and it glows and lights only the next step. So the Hermit is solitude, introspection, it's guidance. It's taking a moment to just pause and think what it is that I want now. And generally with this card, with the Hermit card, it's a 9 card. And a 9 card is the endings of things that you've outgrown. So if you think of a time when you turned off your phone, closed the door and sat in silence, not because you were lonely, but because you needed to hear yourself again. That's the Hermit, the light within you, guiding you when the world around you feels really noisy and complicated and complex. It reminds us that solitude is not loneliness. It's a chance to hear your own voice, your own inner teacher. The Hermit is solitude, wisdom, inner guidance, and it's a card, as I say, where when you receive this one, it's like saying there's a lot in your life now that you've outgrown that you need to think about and to let it go, to allow that void to show itself so that you can put something new into your life, step onto this new pathway. So the Hermit shows us when life is asking you to pause, reflect, and go inward. Maybe you've been seeking answers from others, but the real wisdom, it's always inside. The lantern is your own life and your own light, and it's trusting what you want. It may only show you the next step, but that's all you need, because when you take one step, a second one will follow. Maybe you could literally sit in that silence today. No phone, no noise, just you. Maybe light a candle. And then take a deep breath. And then just ask yourself, what wisdom do I already carry? And as those words come to you, just write them down in your journal. Because the Hermit talks to you to seek within you, not outside of you, but within you. Your inner light will always guide you home. It's such a strong, strong light. That light you seek is already within. Our next one is the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune is a very auspicious card. And it's almost like, have you noticed when life all of a sudden turns, something else comes into play, where one season perhaps you're on top of the world and the next you're humbled, and sometimes everything flows, sometimes it unravels, sometimes it doesn't. That's the Wheel of Fortune, the cycles of fate and the turning of destiny. The meaning of the Wheel of Fortune is about change. It's about cycles and the truth that nothing stays the same. It's saying that life is rhythm. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. And the wheel reminds us to trust the turning because nothing stays still. In tarot, the wheel turns with creatures rising and falling around it in the picture of the card. It reminds us that life moves in seasons, joy and challenges, gains and loss, beginnings and endings, all a part of the cosmic rhythm of life. And this card arrives when the wheel is turning in your own life, maybe. Maybe fortune is rising. Because this is a 10 card, and this is a 10 card. As a 10 card, it's about sort of auspicious new beginnings, really. It's about your fortune rising, opportunities, synchronicities, maybe, doors opening. Or maybe you're in a downturn, endings and loss and uncertainty, but then there's a lesson. And when things like that happen, I often call those the negative things that happen in your life are personal disastrous consequences that need to, because it'll pull you to a point where you know that you need to make a big change. And when you know that, the lesson is learned, because nothing's permanent. If you're low, the wheel will rise again. If you're high and savor it with gratitude, it'll continue to turn in a very auspicious manner. So maybe reflect on one repeating cycle that you have in your life. Perhaps it's a relationship, maybe it's work, or it's personal growth. And maybe you're on this wheel, this same old, same old, same old. Ask yourself, what patterns keep me returning to this? And what is it teaching me? The wheel reminds us all things move in cycles. Trust the turning, embrace both the rise and the fall, for both carry wisdoms. Everything moves, and so do you. So then we go into our next one, which is the Justice card. And the Justice card is almost think of a time maybe when you couldn't ignore the truth any longer. Maybe you had to admit something to yourself, or maybe you had to finally face a consequence you'd been avoiding. It's sort of that moment of clarity where you have where it's sharp and it's balanced and it's undeniable. That's the energy of the Justice card. So the Justice card is about truth and fairness, karma and balance. And as you look at the picture of the tarot card of the Justice sits with a sword in one hand and scales in the other. So the sword cuts through illusions and the scale weighs every action. So this card reminds us that life is governed by balance. What we give, we receive. And we've heard that a lot, haven't we? It's very much about that. And it isn't punishment, it's alignment. When your actions match your soul's truth, really, and the scales balance naturally. So the Justice can appear when you need to make an important decision, or when the truth of a situation perhaps is ready to be revealed. And it asks you, are you willing to look honestly, even if it's uncomfortable? Again, it goes back to you be discerning and to be authentically you, to come from your heart. It also reminds us that integrity is alignment with your mind, your body, and your spirit moving as one. Because sometimes, when one or the other of these are out of sync, it's so complicated, and you can make decisions and then change your mind and then make decisions again. So maybe what you can do is to ask yourself, where am I out of alignment now? And just to take one small step today to bring perhaps truth back into balance, to be truthful to yourself. You could ask yourself, where in my life am I out of balance? What truth have I been avoiding? And then maybe write one small step to restore that balance. Because the justice talks to you and it brings freedom. It stands in integrity and life will align around you. Justice reminds us truth always finds its way. It always finds its way. So the next card is the Hangman. And the Hangman is, he's hanging by his foot, but he's really quite serene and chilled. And he's got a halo around his head, and it looks like he's very ponderous. But the Hangman really is about, have you ever felt being suspended in time, almost stuck between what was and what will be? I always think the Hangman is almost like it's looking at life in a different way. And I often say to my students, imagine that you're, a child that's lying on the floor of a room that they know terribly well, and they're looking up to the ceiling. And when they look at the ceiling, it's a completely different place. And it's almost like looking at life in a different way, looking at the things that you see every day, but looking at them perhaps with different eyes and from a different angle. It's not really about moving forward. It's not about going back, certainly. It's just about hanging around, not making a decision too quickly. It's about perhaps surrendering things too, surrendering old things that haven't worked for you to allow new perspective and maybe, the wisdom to pause and think about what is it that you're wanting, looking at life in a different way. He appears to stop pushing, as if he's allowing life to reveal itself from a different angle, like I was saying before. So the Hangman really is about surrender, about patience, about seeing from a new angle. He's choosing to pause, and this card invites us to let go of control, to stop pushing, to allow a new perspective to emerge. So maybe you could think of a time you stopped fighting a situation and instead surrendered. And if you can think of that, what was the outcome? Suddenly the struggle eased, maybe, and clarity arrived. That's the Hangman. Sometimes wisdom only comes when we stop and invert our usual way of seeing. Try that lying on the floor, like I said, I always say to students, and just breathe deeply for a few moments and just notice how your perspective shifts. And maybe you could say to yourself, what might I see differently if I stop resisting? What happens if I stop forcing this? What if I just wait? The Hangman really reminds us to surrender, and that surrender is not defeat, it's actually a gateway to illumination. So remember to keep, if you're doing this and you're pulling cards, out of the pack every day, just one card, just look at it and always write it in your journal and just, what does it mean to me? What is the reasoning behind the need that I chose this today? These cards can really give you fantastic insight, and sometimes stillness brings the clearest of visions. The next card that we are doing, I'm going to talk about later on. So let us just finish with these first 13 cards, because these cards are going to tell you the story of beginnings, of choices, of courage, and patience. And each one of the cards that we've spoken about are like a stepping stones onto different phases of your life, but phases where you're making choices coming from authenticity, from your heart, from a place that you hold your values close to you. And it's all about choices and courage and patience. And the next time that I do, next session that I'm continuing with the tarot, will continue into transformation with the Death card, Temperance, the Devil, and beyond, until we reach the world itself. Until then, just notice which card calls to you. Perhaps it's the one you need most right now. Thank you so much for joining me today. This podcast is free to listen to, and if you'd like to help me keep creating it, you can support the show through my Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Every bit of support means the world. And if you'd like to go deeper into your own journey, come and visit me at margaretdepetro.com. You'll find ways to book tarot readings with me, courses, Reiki and healing appointments, meditations, and lots more waiting for you there. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep walking your own beautiful path.